TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, unidentified aircraft launched a salvo of missiles toward the southern outskirts of the Syrian capital Damascus, causing extensive damage to a number of installations. Israeli officials blame Iran for an attack on an Israeli-owned freighter that was struck while crossing the Gulf of Oman en route to Singapore. Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen fire ballistic missiles and suicide drones towards Saudi Arabia. Unidentified aircraft launched a salvo of missiles toward the southern outskirts of the Syrian capital Damascus, causing extensive damage to a number of installations said to belong to Iran. At approximately 15 minutes after 10 p.m. last night, Syria's aerial defense array was activated in response to incoming projectiles reportedly from the direction of Israel's Golan Heights region. According to a Syrian military official quoted by the state-owned Sana news agency, most of the incoming missiles were shot down. Nevertheless, sources on the ground confirmed to TV7 that a number of installations located near the town of Saida Zainab, to the south of the Syrian capital and west to the Damascus International Airport, which is a known stronghold of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force and its aligned Shiite militias, sustained a number of direct strikes. Subsequently, the Assad regime pointed a blaming finger toward the Jewish state. Nevertheless, the IDF spokesperson's unit stopped short from confirming nor denying its alleged responsibility in response to TV7's request for comment. Turning to the Gulf of Oman, where an Israeli-owned freighter flying a Bahamian flag was struck by either a missile or a limpet mine after crossing the strategic Strait of Hormuz en route to Singapore. The MV Helios Ray, a vehicle carrier vessel, initially set sail from the Saudi King Abdulaziz port last week, after which it made a short stopover in the Emirati port of Jebel Ali in Dubai, from where it continued to its intended destination in Singapore. However, after crossing the strategic Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf of Oman on Thursday night, an explosion above the waterline of the ship forced the vessel into a halt, since it ripped holes in both sides of its hull. Subsequently, in light of the location of the attack, alongside high tensions between Jerusalem and Tehran, initial assessments by Israel's defense establishment attributed responsibility to the Islamic Republic of Iran.
האיראנים מחפשים לפגוע בתשתיות ישראליות או באזרחים ישראלים, ובכלל בכל מה שקשור באיזשהו אופן למדינת ישראל. המיקום של הספינה בסמיכות יחסית לאיראן בשלב הזה מביא את המחשבה שיש הערכה שמדובר באיראנים, אבל זה כאמור דבר שצריכים להמשיך לבדוק אותו. ישראל תמשיך לפעול בכל מקום.
Subsequently, following a meeting of Jerusalem's security cabinet, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that an investigation concluded that Iran was indeed behind the operation. Moreover, Israeli Education Minister Yoav Gallant, a former Israeli Navy admiral and a member of the Security Cabinet, revealed that the blast was most likely done by a limpet mine that was attached to the Israeli-owned vessel in a naval commando operation.
זה פגיעה של מוקש שהוצמד מבחוץ, כנראה על ידי כוח קומנדו בפעולת שייט במהלך הלילה. 2, זה פעולה שכוונה נגד ישראל, כי מאוד קל להיכנס לכל הרשתות הגלויות ולדעת מי הבעלים של הספינה, והאיראנים הם מתוחכמים.
Iran has quickly denied the Israeli accusation, claiming in a foreign ministry briefing in Tehran, quote, "The security of the Persian Gulf is extremely important for Iran." Nevertheless, a senior Israeli defense official told TV7, quote, "Taking the severity of the incident into account, which is liable to exact a toll from Israeli businesses, those responsible will pay a heavy price for the attack." Turning to Yemen, where a wide-scale offensive by the Iranian-backed Houthi militia on the country's last bastion of the internationally recognized government of President Abd Rabu Mansour Hadi in Ma'arib Governorate continues to be a source of regional instability. Alongside severe humanitarian implications for Yemen, the Iranian-backed Houthis have once again launched a barrage of ballistic missiles and suicide drones towards Saudi Arabia with the aim of targeting the capital Riyadh alongside the populated regions in the south of the country. Houthi spokesman Yahya Sarria claimed in a film statement that the bombing came as a retaliatory response to attacks by the Saudi-led coalition, which supports the Yemeni government. However, the Saudi-led coalition released a statement of its own saying that it had thwarted the Houthi attack on Riyadh and destroyed the 6 armed drones launched from Yemen towards cities in the kingdom's south. While no injuries were reported, the residential structure in the Saudi capital sustained material damage from debris.
زي ما انتم شايفين ده المجلس اللي احنا دايما بنضايف فيه الضيوف لما بيجوا لنا، لكن اتخرب على الاخر. اهم حاجه ان زوجتي وطفليني الحمد لله كانوا موجودين في الشقه، بس الحمد لله في غرفه ثانيه ما حصل لهمش حاجه، احنا بامان. بس ما عنديش غير حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل في الحوثيين، والله حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. انا مش عارف يعني هنوصل لغايه فين اكتر من كده، ولكن احنا واثقين ان احنا ان شاء الله هنفضل في امان طول ما انه قوات الدفاع الجويه بتتصدى الهجمات اللي زي كده الحمد لله.
It is important to know that this latest attack, one out of many in recent weeks, comes at a time when the United States is so-called calibrating its relations with Saudi Arabia, including with regard to its military backing of the internationally recognized government in its southern neighbor Yemen. Among other actions in line with the Biden administration's newly adopted policy toward the Arabian Kingdom, the United States released a report which incriminates Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for allegedly approving an operation to capture or kill a highly critical dissident of the Saud family, Jamal Khashoggi. Consequently, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a series of punitive measures against Riyadh, measures which aim to deter any foreign state from undertaking activities targeting dissidents or journalists.
I would say the relationship with Saudi Arabia is an important one. We have significant ongoing interests. We remain committed to the defense of the kingdom. But we also want to make sure, and this is what the President has said from the outset, that the relationship better reflects our interests and our values. And so what we've done by the actions that we've taken is really not to rupture the relationship, but to recalibrate it. This recalibration goes to the policies that Saudi Arabia is pursuing and the actions it has taken. And I would just add and conclude with this. We are already seeing some results from this recalibration. We're seeing results in our own efforts, joined, I hope, by Saudi Arabia to end the war in Yemen.
Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, spokesman John Kirby emphasized that the U.S. aerial strike against Iranian proxies in eastern Syria on February 26th aimed to send a clear signal the United States will act to protect American and coalition personnel and its security interests in the region.
This response was conducted together with diplomatic measures, including consultation with coalition partners. The department notified congressional leadership before the strikes. Administration officials have been briefing at the member and staff level today, and there will be a full classified briefing early next week. As we made clear last night, and I think through President Biden's order, he made clear that the United States will act to protect American and coalition personnel and our security interests in the region.
Subsequently, U.S. President Joe Biden, during a tour of a FEMA vaccination facility in the United States, was asked more specifically about the intended message of the strike.
Mr. President, what message would you send to Iran as your first military action?
You can't act with impunity. Be careful.
In response to the statement by the American president, the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif condemned the United States for its airstrike as illegal and a violation of Syria's sovereignty. Moreover, Minister Zarif rejected Iran's involvement in the repeated attacks against U.S. coalition forces in Iraq and emphasized the need for the Iraqi government to find the perpetrators. The Iranian top diplomat made this blatant condemnation during a meeting with his visiting Iraqi counterpart Fuad Hussein. Turning to Moscow, where Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov revealed that the United States notified Russia several minutes before last week's attack as part of a deconfliction mechanism for Syria.
Нас, наших военных, предупредили за 4 или 5 минут. Конечно, если говорить даже о деконфликтинге, как это принято в отношениях между российскими и американскими военнослужащими, то это ничего не дает. Такого рода уведомления буквально, когда уже удар наносится.
Moscow's top diplomat went on to voice hope that the Biden administration would soon re-establish contact with their Russian counterparts on regional issues.
По политико-дипломатической линии нам очень важно возобновить контакты. Надеемся, что новая администрация вскоре сформирует свои команды для этой цели. Нам очень важно понимать, как Соединенные Штаты будут выстраивать свою стратегическую линию на земле.
Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to lift up the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in prayer for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, and for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion and its numerous ramifications worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Tov U'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.